Not all who wander are lost. Some are simply called by something older than words. A ripple across a forgotten lake, a shimmer beneath the lilies, a whisper carried by water that remembers. Today, we answer that call. Today, we meet the creature that defied time itself and chose to smile through it all. Welcome, PetNomaderz. Here, we don't just explore creatures. We wander into stories whispered through feathers, scales, and ancient songs. We listen to lives that chose wonder over power, softness over conquest, being over becoming. This isn't a documentary, it's a return to the forgotten magic that still breathes beneath crumbling cities and roaring highways. Today, we don't watch nature. We remember that we are part of it. Follow the trail, listen deeply, smile like you just discovered another heartbeat. Because today, we float with the eternal smile of nature. Today, we meet the axolotl. Before Mexico City became a roaring maze of steel and smoke, before highways carved scars across sacred land, there were lakes. Xochimilco, Chalco, endless mirrors that held the sky, cradling stars, carrying prayers whispered by wind and water. In those waters, life shimmered not just in biology, but in myth. And from those myths, smiled the axolotl. The Aztecs told of the gods' desperate bargain. In order to keep the universe alive, sacrifice was demanded. Blood, souls, heartbeats. One god, Xolotl, refused. He fled. First, he hid by becoming maize, golden and swaying. Then, he turned to stone, stoic and silent. Finally, he slipped into the sacred lakes, transforming into a creature of gills and innocence. An axolotl, a living prayer for escape, a smile that chose life, even at the edge of doom. The lakes became a cathedral, and the axolotls, silent monks swimming through a sacred stillness. To the Aztecs, the axolotl was not just an animal. It was the spirit of resistance itself. Shapeshifter guardian of water, symbol of survival beyond despair. In every slow flick of its tail, in every twitch of frilly gills, the message rippled outward. Stay soft, stay hidden, stay alive. But time is a relentless tide. The Spaniards came, guns roared, gardens burned. The ancient lakes shrank under roads and cities. Lake Chalco disappeared entirely. Xochimilco, wounded but stubborn, endured. In its murky canals today, among plastic bottles and echoes of traffic, the axolotl still drifts, still smiling, still refusing extinction. To see one, to truly see, is to feel something old stir inside you. A sense that life isn't always about dominance, that sometimes survival whispers rather than roars. The axolotl floats not because it forgot how to grow legs. It floats because it remembered how to be free. It chose not to change, because it was already complete. As we follow its trail today, PetNomaderz, we don't just uncover biology. We uncover a memory of waters that once mirrored the stars, of a world that sang softly and slow, and maybe, just maybe, we rediscover a piece of ourselves we left behind. Imagine a creature that grows older without ever growing up, a being that matures while remaining forever young. The axolotl is not a mistake of nature, it's a rebellion. A smile pointed squarely at the laws of biology. While most amphibians march through life stages, egg, larva, adult, land explorer, the axolotl simply stays. It remains aquatic. It keeps its gills, delicate, feathered, waving like soft flames. It never trades the water for the dry, cracked earth. Scientists call this phenomenon neoteny, the retention of juvenile traits into adulthood. But for the axolotl, it's not a flaw. It's a masterpiece. A conscious evolutionary choice whispered into its DNA. Stay free. Stay light. Stay true. How does it work? The axolotl produces extremely low levels of thyroid hormones, particularly thyroxine, the hormone responsible for triggering metamorphosis in amphibians. Without a hormonal push, the axolotl simply refuses to cross the final threshold. If artificially forced, injected with hormones, it can, reluctantly, transform into a more terrestrial form. But many die in the process. The body resists. The soul refuses. How long can such youthful magic last? Despite their delicate, almost ethereal appearance, axolotls are surprisingly resilient. In the wild, facing predators, pollution, and vanishing habitats, they survive 5 to 10 years. In captivity, under the careful watch of aquarists and researchers, they can thrive for 10 to 15 years. A decade and a half of floating, healing, smiling, defying the very idea that time must mean decay. In every year lived underwater, the axolotl quietly reminds us, a life doesn't have to rush to be meaningful. Sometimes, drifting is its own kind of victory. It was never designed to leave the water behind. And then there's the magic trick, regeneration. The axolotl doesn't just heal, it rebuilds. Lose a limb, it regrows. Bone, muscle, nerves, blood vessels. Perfectly. Damage to the heart? Regenerated. Severed spine? Reconnected. Pieces of brain? Recreated. No scars, no deformities, no dramas. Scientists have tried everything. Amputations, nerve removals, even genetic interference. Each time, the axolotl's cells rally, mobilize, reconstruct. It's as if their bodies remember their original blueprint and calmly rebuild themselves from memory. In a world obsessed with treating symptoms, the axolotl reminds us, true healing is restoration, not compensation. And if that wasn't enough, their immune systems are miracles unto themselves. Axolotls accept organ transplants without immune rejection, a biological phenomenon virtually unheard of in the animal kingdom. They can incorporate foreign tissues as easily as they repair their own. Imagine a human receiving a heart transplant without a lifetime of immune-suppressing drugs. Imagine a spinal injury healing itself perfectly. To the axolotl, these aren't dreams. They're routine, daily miracles floating under murky waters. Why does this matter? Because locked inside their smiling cells may be the keys to curing paralysis, regrowing lost limbs, healing organs destroyed by disease, extending life naturally and gracefully. Scientists around the world are racing to decode the axolotl's genome, which, by the way, is 10 times larger than a human's. Each nucleotide, each sequence, a map to miracles. And the axolotl? It keeps smiling, patient, soft, timeless. But here's the true wonder. The axolotl doesn't regenerate out of fear. It doesn't stay young out of panic. It stays young because it can. Because it chooses resilience over resignation. And maybe, just maybe, because it remembers a deeper truth. The greatest power lies not in growing harder, but in remaining whole. As we glide deeper into the currents of its story, PetNomaderz, remember this. You're not just learning about an amphibian. You're standing at the edge of forgotten magic. The magic of becoming, by remaining. And our journey has only just begun. Not all battles are fought with teeth and claws. Some are fought with silence, with patient drifting, with quiet survival. The axolotl has survived volcanic eruptions, glacial ages, the rise and fall of empires. But today, its greatest enemy is invisibility. The shrinking world. Once, the lakes of Mexico were endless. Xochimilco and Chalco stretched like silver veins across the valley. They fed cities. They cradled civilizations. They mirrored the heavens. Axolotls drifted in the thousands, hiding in the reeds, lurking under lilies, invisible in the green hush. But the conquest came. Roads were paved, canals dug, farmlands drained. Lake Chalco was lost, reduced to dust and forgotten maps. Xochimilco limped into modernity, a wounded labyrinth of polluted canals and struggling chinampas. Today, the axolotl's kingdom is a patchwork. dirty water laced with fertilizers, floating islands crumbling under concrete pressure, invasive species, carp and tilapia, competing for food and devouring eggs. Where once lilies brushed the axolotl's crown, plastic bags now drift like ghosts. How bad is it? Field studies have found wild axolotl densities plunging from thousands per square kilometer to fewer than 35 individuals per square kilometer today. Some surveys find none at all. In the wild, the axolotl is critically endangered, hanging by a gilled thread. And yet, it smiles. It floats through dying canals as if carrying the memory of better waters on its back. It breathes hope into poisoned currents. It refuses, stubbornly, sweetly, to disappear without a song. The warriors of the last waters. But not all is lost. Conservationists, scientists, and farmers fight back. They restore traditional floating gardens, the ancient chinampas, to filter water naturally. They breed axolotls in laboratories to preserve genetic diversity. They create protected reserves hidden within the surviving patches of Xochimilco. The Hope Gardens. In the most poetic of ironies, it's not technology that may save the axolotl. It's returning to the old ways, building floating gardens, cleansing the water with plants, reconnecting canals with nature. By remembering what the ancients knew, we might protect what the ancients loved. And there's another army now. Children who fall in love with pixelated axolotls in Minecraft. Artists who paint smiling gilled faces on murals. Writers who spin tales about eternal youth with frilly crowns. Every plush toy sold. Every meme shared. Every story told. Each one is a ripple pushing back against extinction. Why it matters. Saving the axolotl isn't just about saving a species. It's about honoring the delicate things that survive not through dominance, but through wonder. It's about remembering that the world isn't made only of the strong. It's built equally by the soft, by the ones who refused to harden, by the ones who kept smiling, even as waters dried. And so, PetNomaderz, as we drift forward into this journey, know this. The axolotl doesn't need us to mourn it. It needs us to believe in it, to fight for softness, to rebuild the waters, because somewhere beneath a murky canal, gills flutter, a smile waits, and hope floats. Some creatures fade into obscurity. Others are reborn, again and again. The axolotl didn't just survive the destruction of its lakes. It swam straight into our imagination. Across continents, cultures, and centuries, the axolotl became something more than amphibian. It became symbol, spirit, icon. In art and myth, the ancient Aztecs carved axolotls into stone. Poets painted them with words. In 1956, Nobel laureate Octavio Paz penned the haunting prose poem, Axolotl, capturing the creature's ethereal mystery. They are the eyes of trapped beings, beings still adrift in the currents of memory and oblivion. Painters depicted them as gods of resistance, sculptors as guardians of transformation. To artists, the axolotl was not a pet. It was a metaphor of youth defying decay, of life clinging stubbornly to water. In science and revolution, by the early 19th century, French biologists stumbled across axolotls brought to Europe. Fascinated by their regenerative abilities, they became models in laboratories. Centuries later, in modern genetics labs, the axolotl still reigns. Mapping their vast labyrinthine genome, the largest yet sequenced, is considered a scientific Everest. Within their frilly cells might lie the secrets to healing spinal injuries, regenerating limbs, fighting cancer, slowing aging itself. In a world obsessed with progress, the axolotl teaches a quieter revolution: to heal by remembering, to survive by staying soft. In pop culture explosion, fast forward to the 21st century, axolotls burst into memes, plush toys, tattoos, and TikTok videos. Minecraft made them aquatic allies in 2021, triggering global adoration. Animal Crossing immortalized them in charming villagers. Instagram flooded with axolotl plushies wearing crowns, capes, sunglasses. They weren't just cute, they were relatable. Who hasn't, at some point, wished to remain soft in a hard world? to float gently instead of running the race. The axolotl wasn't weird. It was aspirational, in personal stories. Around the world, countless people tattoo axolotls onto their skin. Not for aesthetics, but for survival. For many, the axolotl represents recovery after trauma, healing from surgeries, mental health battles, the daily decision to keep smiling despite it all. Each axolotl inked into flesh whispers, "You can heal. You can stay soft. You can survive." And in spirit, the axolotl is no longer just a biological wonder. It's a philosophical ally. It stands for the beauty of unfinished things, the courage of vulnerable hearts, the wisdom of stillness in a rushing world. It reminds us, growth isn't always linear. Strength isn't always visible. Survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the softest smiles that endure longest. As we drift toward the final waters of our journey, PetNomaderz, remember this. The axolotl does not ask for your pity. It doesn't scream for your attention. It simply smiles, floats, hopes you'll notice the quiet miracles still happening beneath the noise. Not all teachers stand at podiums. Some drift silently beneath lilies. Some smile without mouths that speak. The axolotl doesn't lecture. It doesn't command. It simply exists. And in its existence, it offers us lessons forgotten by a world obsessed with speed. 1. Growth isn't always necessary. We are told life must be a ladder. Climb, advance, mature, conquer. But the axolotl chose another path. It stayed. It remembered. It flourished by refusing to conform. It teaches us, you are not broken if you don't rush. You are not a failure if you stay close to your origins. Growth isn't about abandoning your nature. Sometimes, remaining is revolutionary. 2. Healing is possible. Over and over again. The axolotl doesn't panic when injured. It doesn't rage. It doesn't mourn. It heals. Patiently. Perfectly. Without bitterness. Without scarring. It reminds us, pain is not the end. Loss is not final. Wounds can become gateways to wholeness again. The capacity to rebuild exists inside all living things, including us. 3. Strength lies in softness. In a world that prizes hard shells and sharp claws, the axolotl whispers, vulnerability is strength. Gentleness is resilience. Softness is survival. Its external gills, delicate, feathery, almost too fragile to exist, are its pride, not its shame. In every frilly breath, it reminds us, you don't have to armor yourself to endure. You can remain open and still prevail. 4. Beauty comes from being, not becoming. The axolotl could transform. It has the machinery tucked within its DNA, but it chooses not to. It is content in its forever youthful form, not because it's lazy, but because it knows completeness doesn't always mean change. In a society obsessed with upgrading, improving, optimizing, the axolotl simply is whole, enough, already perfect, and perhaps so are you. 5. Wonder is a form of resistance. Every pixelated axolotl in Minecraft, every plushie hugged by a child, every mural sprayed on crumbling urban walls, all of it is an act of remembering. Remembering that the world wasn't built by spreadsheets alone. It was built by wonder, by play, by soft-gilled creatures who refuse to disappear. The axolotl stands as living proof that joy, simple, unguarded, ridiculous joy, is a survival strategy. And if wonder can survive poisoned canals, it can survive anything, even us. Final reflections. You came looking for a weird amphibian. You found a legend, a healer, a quiet revolutionary. And maybe, without realizing it, you found a reflection of yourself. The parts of you that are still soft, still curious, still willing to believe. So, PetNomaderz, what will you choose? Will you armor up, grow hard, forget the water that once carried you? Or will you, like the axolotl, smile at the chaos, stay tender, and float gracefully through a broken world. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stay soft.
PetNomads, where the wild whispers and the unseen comes to life.